Am I the a-hole for telling my dad to get the heck out of my life and go attend his precious stepdaughter's wedding? My dad wasn't there for me growing up. He and my mom were 22, mom, and 25 him when they had me. He didn't even pay child support for the first 7 years of my life. He was ordered to, but he always found a way to dodge support until eventually he stopped dodging and paid it monthly, along with the arrears he owed. When I was 4, he met his wife and became a father to her daughter, who is 16 months younger than me. When I was 16, he had a change of heart and reached out to establish a relationship with me, fighting to show me he really wanted it. I hesitantly agreed. He was trying really hard and even paid my mom a huge lump sum of the owed child support. What sort of won me over was how he handled his stepdaughter. She wanted me to live with them and wanted a brother because my dad and his wife had 3 daughters together plus his stepdaughter. They consider each other father and daughter because her biological father isn't in her life. She was really pushy with me about moving in with them, insisting my mom kept me from my dad and their family. This was not true, but she wanted to paint my mom as the bad guy. My dad told her she was wrong. He sat her down with me there and told her he had been a bad dad to me, that he made those choices, and that I didn't need to move in. He held his ground even when she pouted and acted like a baby about it. I never wanted to be her brother, and I don't like her. We have a lot of bad blood because she knows I don't want to be her brother and feels I was wrong not to move in with them. I find her entitled, selfish, and bratty. But my dad didn't push me for it or make it seem like I was wrong for not wanting to leave my mom, who had raised me solo my whole life up to that point. He even paid for my college and was there when I needed him. My relationship with him improved, but his stepdaughter and his daughters always came before me. That was something I always felt. Over the last year, things have been different between us. He has wanted me to be more involved in his family and get closer to his stepdaughter. He told me I've had 10 years to embrace everyone and become a full member of the family, instead of treating his stepdaughter like an enemy. I told him it wasn't going to happen. There was drama a few months ago because rumors were circulating that his stepdaughter's boyfriend cheats on her a lot. There's no proof to my knowledge, but rumors show no sign of stopping, and more keep coming out as the months pass. I got engaged last year, and a month ago, my fiancé and I set the date. My dad and his stepdaughter did a Zoom call with me about it, where she asked me to give up the date because she's now engaged and wants to get married on that date. I said no. She whined, and I ignored her. She went ahead and booked the dates anyway, then called my dad via Zoom. He called me and said she needed my dad to give her away. She insisted I had to find another date. I told her to buzz off and left the call. My dad called me and said he needs to be there for her and doesn't want to miss my wedding, so could I please move the date? To me, it was a step too far. I told him to get the heck out of my life and attend his stepdaughter's wedding then. I understood he raised the girls and they came first for him, but after all the fighting he did to have a relationship with me, putting this girl before me was too much, especially for something I booked first. Besides, he made it clear whose wedding he'd attend. My dad has tried to reach out despite what I said, and his wife sent a long email the other night saying I should have compassion and understanding for him. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Nope. And time to block her and her mother. Compassion and understanding for him? You weren't the one who put him in this situation. I think I'll block them all. Better for me. He chose her. That he is pushing you to change your date versus pushing her to change her date speaks volumes. And stepsister only chose that specific date because OP had already chosen it. Stepsister knew dad would choose her over OP, and this was just the opportunity to prove it. Not the a-hole, and I'm willing to bet that the stepsister's wedding doesn't take place, and dad will try to come to yours. Do not let him. Block him at a lot of them, and have a beautiful wedding and a long and happy marriage. Or maybe the affair will be exposed at the wedding and she'll be humiliated. I'm petty enough to hope that happens. Not the a-hole. You set your date first. She set hers on the same date to force her father into choosing her. He did. There is nothing for you to do here, except recognize how awful they all are and choose not to keep this drama in your life. I will go no contact with a lot. That's what I plan to do. I already told him to get the heck out of my life, and I meant every word of it. Have you considered assuming your mom's surname before the wedding? If you don't already have it, that is. I think it'd be a good idea. Get rid of that toxicity once and for all. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my brother and his family stay at my place for Christmas because they borrowed my dog's toy last year? Last Christmas, my brother, his wife, and their 2 kids stayed at my house for the holidays. It was a bit chaotic, but I was happy to host. I have a golden retriever, Max, who is the love of my life and a huge part of my family. He has a favorite stuffed toy, a beat-up duck he's had since he was a puppy. This toy is his comfort object, and he always carries it around. During their stay, my niece, 6 at a time, got very attached to Max's duck. I told her it was Max's favorite toy and even showed her how much she loved it. When they left, I realized they had taken it home with them. I texted my brother thinking it was a misunderstanding and asked for it back. He said my niece cried about leaving it, so they let her keep it. I was pretty upset and explained that it wasn't just a random toy. It was Max's favorite. He said, "It's just a dog toy. Go buy another one." I told him they needed to send it back, but they refused. I even offered to buy my niece a new duck toy that looked the same, but they still said no because she was too attached to it now. Max was visibly sad for weeks afterward. He looked for his duck every day, and it broke my heart. I ended up scouring the internet to find the exact same duck, but Max never loved it as much as the original. Fast forward to this year. My brother asked if they could stay again for Christmas, and I told him no. He was shocked and asked why. I reminded him about the duck incident and how disrespectful it was. He said I was being petty and holding a grudge over a dog toy. My parents and other siblings are now calling me the Grinch and saying I'm punishing my niece for something she didn't understand at a time. To me, it's not about the toy. It's about the principle and a blatant disregard for my boundaries. If they couldn't respect something so small, why would I trust them to respect my home again? Am I the a-hole? If only your poor niece had decent parents who would help her understand. Children who are never taught right from wrong have such a hard time learning how to become decent members of society. You aren't reacting to your niece's mistake. She was just a child. You are protecting yourself and your family from adults who are devoid of compassion for others and have shown that they have no respect or regard for their own family when it inconveniences them. They have shown they can't be trusted in your home or car or allowed unsupervised access to basically anything. Because of their own choices, they have to deal with the consequences and can pay for a hotel or let someone else host them. Not the a-hole. She was 6. She was more than old enough to understand too. Not the a-hole. Why the heck would anyone want their kid to keep a goddamn toy that has been slobbered on and chewed by a dog? Freaking gross. Also, saying I'm punishing my niece for something she didn't understand at a time. If your 6-year-old doesn't understand, the toy's not yours, we can't take it home, then you have severely spoiled your child. I understood it by 4, probably. Definitely by 5 and certainly by 6. Exactly. They ruined that perfect opportunity to teach their child that 1, she can't have everything she wants, and 2, that she just can't take other people's things. Bad parents. They don't deserve treats for their bad behavior. Next story. Am I the a-hole for getting so mad that my dad gave my half-sister something my mom left me? My mom died when I, 17 male, was 6. She left me a handmade box with my name on it, along with a letter tied to it for me to read when I was old enough. She also included the box and everything inside it in her will, explicitly stating that it was 100% meant to be mine and only for me, not for my dad or anyone else. My dad was supposed to keep it safe for me, so he kept it in his room. My dad has a daughter who's 8. His relationship with her mom broke down, and he has full custody of her, so we all live together. A few weeks ago, I noticed my half-sister had my mom's 3 bracelets that were inside my box. I asked her about it, and she said I wanted her to have them. I confronted my dad, and he told me it was a nice gesture, and he wanted me to let her keep them. He said I wouldn't wear them, so what's the harm? I got mad and told him those bracelets were my mom's, and I'm her only child. My dad told me that didn't matter. I said it does matter. I pointed out that his daughter is not my mom's child and isn't who I would want to have them in the future. He told me I should consider it an act of accepting my half-sister and that I don't make enough of an effort to do that. I told him this was the way to get me to accept her. We argued about it. I've been mad ever since, and I made my half-sister give the bracelets back. She resisted and cried, which pissed my dad off, but I never want her to have them. My dad told me my anger isn't fair and that I should look at the bigger picture. He said I should understand he still loves my mom and wanted my half-sister to have something from her. I told him to give her something he kept, not something my mom made clear was meant for me. I told him it couldn't be clearer, and his daughter doesn't deserve anything when she's not my mom's child. My dad told me my anger isn't right, and that I should reconsider my stance. He said being so angry about it shows I don't care about him or my half-sister. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Those are yours and you have every right to decide what to do with them. Your father is being emotionally manipulative. He could legally open a lawsuit that his father stole from him and failed as the executor of the will. If your dad thought this was in any way right, he would have talked to you before giving the items away. They weren't his to give, and he lied to his daughter as well because she thought you wanted her to have them. The comment you made about giving her something from your dad's pile of memories was spot on. Your dad betrayed your mom's memory by disregarding her will. He betrayed you by building some delusion that his dead wife would approve of him stealing from her child. You can love someone and lose respect for them, and you're rapidly losing respect for your selfish, untrustworthy excuse of a father. Your half-sister has a living mother. When she passes away, the kid can have whatever she wants from that woman. Until then, you're going to protect and treasure what your mom left you, because your dad has proven you can't trust him. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. This was something your mom left for you. Tell your dad this is something for you to pass on to your children, not a paternal half-sister. I told him that, and he said I could still give it to my half-sister, and it would be just as meaningful. I told him it wouldn't be for me. She's 8. Take it from her, hide it, and deny it. She'll forget, and it will demonstrate to your useless father that he shouldn't give things to an 8-year-old. I already got it back, but she refused at first. She's still upset about it. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not saving the house so my brother can buy it? There is a lot to this situation, but I'll try to keep it brief. I, 25 female, have a mom, a grandma, and great-grandpa who all lived on the same property. My mom and grandma share a house, while my great-grandpa had his own house next door. He sadly passed away about 2 years ago and the house went to my grandma. Even before my great-grandpa died, we had talked about me eventually buying the house and half the property from my grandma. We initially thought this would happen when I was around 30, but you can't really predict the death of a loved one that precisely. I had recently moved to a different city to be with my boyfriend, but he also agreed we would move back once we're ready to settle down. While my grandma was grieving and contemplating whether she wanted to sell, my mom suggested my little brother Luke, 19, and his girlfriend Emma, 20, move in temporarily. This would give them some privacy and, in turn, help maintain the house. No renovations or anything involving money. This year, my grandma decided she wants to sell the house next year because she needs money for her own renovations. Yesterday, I visited my family, and my grandma, mom, and I set a date to discuss how to proceed, cost, responsibilities, etc. That's when my brother interrupted, saying he should be involved since he's also interested in the house. This was the first I'd heard of it, but apparently my mom already knew. She said our main concern should be keeping the house in the family and suggested Luke and I could discuss later who will live in it and buy my grandma out. I told him I intended to let Luke and Emma live there rent-free for a few years while I focus on my career before settling down. However, I made it clear I would not invest in something unless I intended to make it my own one day. Property is expensive, and my boyfriend and I want to start investing now before we have major financial responsibilities, like children. My brother argued that since he and Emma have already been living there, it's unfair to expect them to leave when I decide to move back. I told him the alternative. He pays the full amount, he's a student and doesn't have a part-time job, next year, or grandma sells it to a stranger. My brother and mom called me selfish, saying I'd get the money back if he eventually bought it for me. However, for me, it's not just about the money, it's also about the financial strain. Paying off a loan would mean tightening our budget and effectively losing money due to inflation. It's true, I'm the only one able to pay my grandma to keep the house from being sold to strangers, but I feel they're putting an unfair expectation on me and guilt-tripping me by calling me selfish. Am I in the wrong here? I'd like some outside opinions. Let me rephrase their actual demand of you to the bare truth. You have to buy this house for us to live in however long we want, with no obligation to you except a vague statement about buying it from you eventually. Because family. See how crazy that is? Absolutely not, unless you are independently wealthy and have no issues with supporting your brother indefinitely. Given his response to your saying you'll want the house eventually if you're the one buying it, essentially, how dare you ask us to move out of our house before we're ready? I suspect you'll never get him out. Let the family handle the sale process, or you'll forever be labeled as the sibling who evicted their own brother. Your brother wants you to subsidize his life. Your family's desires shouldn't be used to put you in a crippling financial position. Don't let your mom and brother manipulate you with emotions. And don't come to a verbal agreement. Being screwed over in this situation could impact you for decades. If you're in the US, your boyfriend may be unprotected unless he's part of a contract or you're married. Asking him to contribute financially could also be risky. This isn't some game, and your mom has shown she's willing to play games to get what she wants. You cannot trust them to care about your financial interests when the time comes to sort it out. We would definitely get everything in writing and approved by a lawyer. I love my family, but the I never said that game is strong. My boyfriend and I aren't married yet, but we intend to write him into the contract, as well as stipulate what happens if we split.